Welcome to Ease in Real Life, the podcast where we embrace joy, authenticity, and peace through all of life's ups and downs. I'm your host, Kijana, and each week we'll explore practical tools, real stories, and meaningful conversations to help you create a life that feels lighter and more aligned. Ready, Grits? All right, we're ready. Welcome to another episode of Ease in Real Life. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've got an interview for you with a dear friend of mine, Liana LaMattina. Very excited for you guys to hear this interview. We recorded it like about a month ago, and I actually say in the interview that Liana is my third guest. She's technically my fourth that you guys have heard, but she was the third interview that I recorded. Liana is an attorney. She is an advocate. She's also a high school friend of mine. Liana is a former ADA here in Suffolk County, Boston, where we live. And now she's an associate at a law firm in Boston. Our conversation today is about our accomplishments, or a lot of Liana's accomplishments, being a high achiever, and what it means to acknowledge that, but also release the intensity of it. I hope you'll enjoy this conversation, and I'll be back afterwards to give you a little astro update. Enjoy. Hi, Liana.
Hi, Kijana.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm very happy to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Ease in Real Life. You are going to be my third guest.
I'm honored.
Oh, I'm so
Truly,
excited.
I am.
I'm so excited. This is really cool. Liana and I went to high school together.
We did.
Boston Latin School.
Yup. Sumus Primi.
A real Latin girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I was just at an event this morning. It was like a women in business event in the Rosendale Women's Business Group.
Oh, nice.
And it was down in Rosendale Square, and there were all these women there. And I was talking to this woman who she owns a bookstore in Rosy, and her daughter goes to Boston Latin.
Really?
And she was telling me some stories about some stuff that her and her daughter are kind of going through, and I was a little triggered, like, instantly.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It was funny because I was like, as she was describing things, I was like, wow, you really brought me right back. It kind of never leaves you.
No. That was a really formative environment, to say the least. But I have no regrets for it at all.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I definitely have mixed feelings about it. But I feel like we had definitely different experiences.
Yeah.
There. You are, I think, 2 years younger than me.
I was class of 2010.
Okay, 2010, and I was 2008. Now, this is my little thing that I use sometimes because he can't really stay. We can't have that for the whole interview. So, but thank you, Grits. Thanks for understanding. Okay, so you graduated in 2010. Did you come in as a 60?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that she came in the 7th grade, as did I.
Yes.
Came in the 7th grade, and also, like, you grew up in East Boston. Your dad was a city councilor.
Yes.
Was he a city councilor while you were in school?
Yeah, he ran for office while I was in 8th grade.
Okay.
And got elected then.
And was pretty much on the city council?
Yeah, probably through pretty much college for me.
Okay.
A little after college, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, 12 years total.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, he was in it.
Yeah, he was in it.
Love Sal. Love him.
Yes.
But like growing up in that household with your dad being a city councilor, very visible in the city. I mean,
yes,
everybody still knows
Sal.
Yeah. But also, like, being in a competitive high school, and you're an only child.
Yeah.
So would you say that, like, how did that shape kind of I would consider you a high achiever, your high achiever nature?
Well, there's a lot there.
Let's get we have time today.
Yeah. I would say very independent early on. But my parents never put pressure on me academically or with high expectations. They really didn't. I put that pressure on myself. And I still, to this day, don't entirely know where that comes from. Maybe it's just partially the Capricorn in me. Maybe
definitely a part.
Right.
Definitely. Maybe it's a past life.
Maybe it's a past life. Maybe it's other factors. Like, my grandmothers helped raise me while my parents were working. And my grandma Dolores and my auntie Mary both have passed away. They're on the LaMattina side of the family, my dad's side, and they were pulled out of school very early on.
Mm.
They were pulled out in like 5th grade to go work and like take care of the family.
Wow.
So they got married young, had children young, and they never got access to education. And so my grandmother only had sons. I was the first granddaughter.
Wow.
So for her, she saw me and was like, wow, like you can do all this. She's
Yeah.
like, focus on your education, go see the world, go do that. And they kind of lived vicariously through me in a way.
Yeah.
Um, but never pressured me, always wanted me to enjoy life and do the best that I can. But I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself. I think I recognize that not everyone had the opportunity that I did, especially with Boston Latin School,
Mm.
personally for me. So I wanted to take full advantage of that.
Wow. And like, what do you feel like specifically were the achievements that they kind of got to experience through you?
I would say the fact that I went to Boston Latin School
Mm-hmm.
and graduated high school,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that I got while I was at Latin school, I got to travel to Washington, D.C. I got to go to Germany, Poland, and Czech Republic for the Facing History program.
Mm.
You know, they never left East Boston.
Mm.
Um, I got to, go to college. I got a partial scholarship to Boston University,
Amazing.
and I was the first, woman on that side of the family to go to college
Wow.
and get a degree. And they were very proud of that. And then, they saw me also go to law school
Mm.
and graduate, and a whole series of other achievements too. Adrian's campaign,
Yep.
Eastie Pride Day, just like so many wonderful things in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful, very, very grateful and fortunate to have had such a supportive family, like
Yeah.
next, like, nuclear family, not
Yeah.
just mom and dad as an only child, but like my grandparents, my great aunt, my uncles and aunts, like very tight.
Yeah. And in so many ways, like your community.
Yeah.
Like growing up in East Boston, I mean, my mom grew up in East Boston, so I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I have that like connection with you guys where like I'm adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing, I mean, I joke around about it, but like even when you guys come to like my yoga classes,
Yeah.
like it's the whole neighborhood is
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And I like joke about how you guys like put out the Eastie Girl bat signal.
It
But
really,
like
it
I don't know how
really
you
is like
do
a
it,
bat signal.
but it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. East Boston is a fantastic community. That's why I'm going to spend forever there.
Yeah.
My forever home is there. I want to raise a family there. And it was really special growing up because, as a child, my parents' friends were all in the area
Yep.
mostly, and they looked out for each other. I was growing up with their kids, especially East Boston camps. It's like with the Tassidaries,
Yeah.
the Forbes, and all of them. But yeah, the community really did have a huge impact in my life, whether it was going to the Salesian Boys and Girls Club, the East Boston Social Centers, and then just how tight knit everyone knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
Again, back to everyone knowing my father too, but
Mm-hmm.
everyone really knew each other, looked out for each other. And I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really fortunate to have that support
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It is really incredible how that creates like a sense of safety
Mm.
and how that like is such a like primer for success and being successful and being driven in that way because I mean having that system of support. I'm sorry, buddy, but oh,
Oh.
right. I think he wants to go all the way up. All
You
right.
hang with us.
There you go. All right. But going back to what we're saying, having that system of support, I think, is like a primer for success in a way. And also, in a way, puts a lot of eyes on you and puts a lot of pressure on you, too. I think, being Sal's daughter and knowing that, like, everywhere you go, people kind of know who you are in a way. And that must also add a little bit of pressure to even just like where I might go out and do something stupid or, might have gone out and
Yeah.
got drunk or whatever.
Yes.
You know, did you feel like you could do that same thing?
Um, yes and no.
Mm.
Growing up, I definitely knew that there were eyes on me. I knew that if people saw me behaving a certain way, it would get back to my father or it would reflect poorly upon my father.
Mm.
Um, and again, my dad never actually put any pressure like that on me or anything. You know,
Mhm.
obviously my parents looked out for me, didn't want me getting in any trouble, but they
Mhm.
trusted me. Um, but for me, like, I would go out and do the silly teenage shenanigans that we
Mhm.
all did, drinking, smoking, all of that.
Mhm.
But I always would be the nervous one about like getting caught or like being more careful, more of the mom of the group,
Yeah.
make sure everyone comes back alive.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's important. We need them.
We need them. Mama Liana, that
Yep.
was a nickname. But definitely had moments when I was older, like, 17, 16, 17, where like I was out doing stuff thinking no one had seen me. And I would get home and my dad was one time was like, "What are you doing sitting outside of, this
Uh-oh.
specific street address with these people at this time?" And I'm
Mhm.
like, "Whoa, how did you find out?"
Yeah.
And so that always made me a little extra aware, I
Mhm.
suppose. And then just I was constantly in rooms with other people of power and influence, and I always had to make sure I had like a certain persona on,
Mhm.
always polite, respectful, all of that. Um, but, you know, I guess, yeah, sometimes that could be a challenge because you have to kind of cater to a certain audience, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah. You're like managing your persona and
Yeah.
a lot more awareness than like I think most teenagers would
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Like I realized that the consequences to like my actions and behavior wouldn't just reflect upon me, it would reflect upon like my father, my family,
Mhm.
and it could affect him in a negative way,
Mm.
just as it does in a positive way.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, it sounds like you were able to find some balance there of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna have fun, I'm gonna live my life.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yep.
I definitely did.
But
Yeah.
also you maintained a level of like excellence and maturity and awareness and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a balance. I feel like I don't know if it's code switching or what it
Yeah.
is, but it would be crazy because, as a teenager, a city kid, right? By day I was in like AP environmental science, playing violin,
Yeah.
doing all these like top tier educational things,
Yeah.
programs, etc. And then I would go home, crush out my 2, 3 hours of homework. And then it was like, all right, who we calling? Where we grabbing drinks? Like, what are we gonna go do to hang out? Who's
Yeah.
getting what?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I switched into kind of that city kid mode, I guess, for lack of a better
Yeah.
explanation. Typical teenager, and sometimes it was tough to navigate both of that and feeling like I belonged in those different spaces.
Right. How did you like decide where you belong and make space for yourself in those places?
I just stuck around the people that made me happy,
Mm.
honestly, that were good friends to me,
Mhm.
that always showed up for me and never judged me,
Mhm.
never made fun of me or anything like that.
Because like just to paint a picture though, you're going from like like essentially like mathletes vibe to like hanging, by the beach, drinking with friends in a very,
Mhm.
what I mean? And like you're
Mhm.
doing this in the course of one day as a teenager.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Like I can't even do that right
I
now.
know. Yeah, I
You
don't
know
think
what
I
I
could
mean?
then. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And just to, but also like how quickly one has to grow to like be present in all of those spaces in the
Yeah.
course of one day. You know what I mean? The awareness, again, just to go back to that, that you have to have from a really young age to just even do that. And I think it honestly even just speaks to your how much of a high achiever you are to be like, I'm gonna be successful here and I'm gonna be successful here. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I
Like I'm
guess
not gonna
so.
miss out
Right?
on,
No, I wasn't gonna miss out on a good time.
yeah, but on any part of life either.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you feel like there was a point ever in your life where like one thing became more important than the other?
Well, I suppose in terms of like the whole hanging out with your friends, going out drinking and all of that stuff became less important as I got older.
Mm,
Because I wanted to focus a lot on my like academics, a lot where, you know, BU was taking me, things like that. And it never precluded me from hanging out with my nearest and dearest and having fun times. Of
yeah.
course, I met other folks that I built beautiful relationships with, friendships with, that I'm still friends with today, and have had some great times, you know. But I wanted to kind of expand my universe,
Mm,
um, and knew that there was a world beyond East Boston, and I love Eastie, but I wanted to experience outside of it too,
mhm,
and I knew that that would mean letting go of certain things,
mhm.
um, and you know, going to college at BU was fantastic experience. I actually waitressed pretty much all through college. And you know, while I was waitressing, that's where I met my true college friends,
Mm,
you know, not really at BU.
yep.
Um, and so that's where I met my college pals, besides Cece, my roomie, but I knew her from before college.
Cute.
Um, anyways, yeah, so that's kind of where things kind of changed for
Mhm.
me.
And like in that change, obviously you were still able to kind of ground into your authentic self and find your tribe and continue to surround yourself with people and be around people. But like, how did that kind of realization, if it was a realization for you, like if it was a conscious thing, how did that shape your decision to like go to law school and
Like my people, how did that shape my decisions to kind of where I went in my professional life and stuff?
yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's a good question. I suppose I personally knew I wanted to continue my education. And I think that was one of the millennial pressures in general. Like,
Yeah.
a bachelor's degree isn't enough. You need something more.
Yeah.
Um, my grandma Rose always chirped law school in my ear, but I was always like, no, what would I be a lawyer for?
Yeah.
Sounds awful.
Yeah.
But I had the privilege of working for Mayor Menino at the Boston University Initiative on Cities after he had stepped down as
Got it.
mayor.
Yeah.
Um, and
Because he was at BU at that time. Yeah.
yes, and it was like right after it was like finishing my last year at BU and right after graduation up until he passed away pretty much. He was a big education guy and he asked me about where I was going and he mentioned law school.
Mm.
And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, well, have you even looked into it? And I was like, no, no. And he was like, well, go look into it. And I was like, I don't think so. And then he like refused to talk to me until I actually looked into it. I'm serious. He was like that. It was really funny. He was in a very like kind of puppa kind of way.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and so I finally looked into it, and the types of classes I would take. And I thought, you know what, this would be actually a good fit for me.
Mm.
I thought I would go into education law and be an advocate for children
Mm.
and quality education. But obviously, we know that took a lot of changes and
Yep.
twists and turns there. But yeah, I think that was Menino actually was a big influence on me deciding to go to law school.
Mm.
Just little conversations with him about life and purpose and helping people shifted gears for me, for sure.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's
It
like,
was a really cool
yeah,
experience.
it is.
Really, really cool.
Yeah. I mean, also, Menino's a Boston legend
Yes.
in his own,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And so
Yes.
to have that experience with him and to
Hmm.
have that connection and get that inspiration, I think is certainly very, very cool and very like a very nice little Boston story.
It is a very Boston
Yeah.
story. It very, very much is. He was a great man and he really did care about people in the city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that like we certainly know, people that have like worked with him and worked for
Mm.
him in many different ways. And it really shows to this day when you
Mhm.
meet someone who you're like, oh, you were working
Mhm.
with me now, and like that's where
Mhm.
you were kind of steeped and
Mhm.
grown in. You can always just like feel that
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
someone. And I think it also, like, when you can speak to that experience, it also like connects you with someone immediately,
It does.
because he was the type of person that touched,
Yeah.
he was the mayor my whole life until he
Yeah.
wasn't. So
Yeah.
he certainly touched everyone that I knew in some way, shape, or form.
And he met pretty much everyone. He met like 75% of the city or something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
couldn't
Something
imagine
crazy.
how he couldn't have.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right,
I
right,
mean,
right.
you know what I mean? It's when you're
Uh,
around that long,
yeah.
there's, yeah, like, few people you're not going to meet. But I always thought that was really cool about him, that,
Mm.
for the most part, everyone that I knew could like speak to a positive experience that they had had with him,
Yeah.
which I think
Yeah.
is really cool. And yeah, I certainly can speak to them, and I love that that's your story too.
Yeah.
Um, but like, in those moments, coming up, high school, college, what was your vision of success that you were working towards?
At that time, my vision of success was, achievement in career,
Mhm.
financial
Mhm.
achievements,
Mhm.
maybe a little bit of power too.
Mhm.
That's definitely what I thought success was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very focused on what's the next goal, the next goal, the next goal.
Yeah.
That's what it was for a long time.
Mm. And you said for a long time, like,
Yeah.
how has that changed?
I think that's evolved for me over the past 5 years, I'd
Mm.
say, just about.
Say more.
Okay. Um,
You would.
well, yeah. So I think that I had always struggled with anxiety
Mm.
at a young age, um, for multiple reasons. But I found that after I had finished, so I finished at BU. I run Adrian's campaign.
Mhm.
I go to the state house as his aide. I work full time. I go to law school at night.
Wow.
Grind, grind, grind.
Mhm.
Which I love the grind. I thrive in the grind. I can do it,
Yep. Mhm.
Um, and I was hitting all these achievements, and it was just very gratifying, and
Mhm.
also simultaneously feeling fulfillment in public service and giving back to community. After law school, I ended up becoming an assistant district attorney in Suffolk County, which I loved.
Yeah. Amazing.
It was an awesome experience.
Yeah.
Like, no regrets there. I so grateful for my experience. I was in Chelsea District Court for 3 years, and then Suffolk Superior Court in the Major Felony Bureau, and it was fantastic.
Wow.
Um, but it was also during the time of the pandemic,
Mm.
and I was dealing with trauma every day,
Mhm.
secondary trauma
Mhm.
every day, um, a high caseload, and a lot of responsibility. And I cared very deeply because I know this affects people's lives
Mhm.
in so many ways.
Mhm.
Um, so I was working 6 days a week, long hours, to keep up with my caseload and such. Um, and everyone had to do that.
Yep.
It's that's what you kind of sign up for, right?
Yeah.
But I was starting to get burnt out.
Yeah.
And it was more of me realizing that, like, it wasn't the lack of enjoyment of the work, because I love the work and I still continued to do it. Um, but it was how I was managing the stress of it all,
Mm.
how I was managing processing a long day, a traumatic day,
Mm.
a stressful day, um, and setting boundaries and finding that work life balance.
Mhm.
Because I started to realize that, like, everything was the next goal.
Mm.
Okay, so, like, what happens next? Like, why does there always have to be something else?
Yeah.
And I just realized I needed to, like, slow down for a second and
Mhm.
figure out how I can continue to do something that I love while also taking care of myself, because I
Mhm.
realized that I started to struggle mentally,
Mhm.
and physically my body was starting to suffer as well because I wasn't taking care of myself.
Mhm.
So that's when my mind started to shift. And then I also started to have different priorities in life. I started to want family, and it was less about the money and the power and more like just what I need, I just wanted really the house and that's it,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um so that kind of shift, and also other life experience of like, death and loss, that kind of reshaped my mind of, life's too short to always be worrying about like the next goal,
Mhm.
and not appreciating all this wonderful beauty that I have right now in my
Yeah.
life
And all that you've achieved.
and all that I've achieved on
Yeah.
top of that.
Yeah.
But like I have so much fulfillment in my life just with like the people that love me and my family,
Mhm.
and like my also gratitude for the physical safety that I have as well, a roof
Yeah.
over my head, food in my stomach,
Yep.
and just enjoying and appreciating that so much more
Mhm.
has just been significantly more fulfilling than, well, what's the next achievement and the next goal?
Wow.
That makes
That makes a lot of
sense.
sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think, you know, I- it, it's again, like you have really achieved so much in your lifetime. And like even just hearing you speak through it immediately, you're like, wow, that's a lot. And I think that, you know, the burnout that we face, it's so layered. You're speaking to like taking on secondhand trauma every day. um, and there's also like you're going through things with your family, things in your community, and all these things. And I think when you're a high achiever, especially, you and especially as a Capricorn, like this is a very Capricornian thing to do, right? Like Capricorn and Cancer, they're on that same line. And Cancers are so good at being emotional. And Capricorns possess the exact same emotionality, but they don't see how it brings them success. And so they
Mm.
tend to really put it away. And so I think about you and how much you were really taking in. Like we're just sitting here kind of listening to it, but I don't know that we can really imagine the depths to what you're actually talking about when you say you were taking in all of this and not doing anything with it. And we know that trauma just sits in your body until you find a way to release it. And so the
Mm-hmm.
level of trauma that was kind of sitting there, was there ever a physical moment for you?
Yes. Yeah. So, um, 2022, 2023, I started to get very, very heavy and painful periods.
Mm.
And they started getting progressively worse. And then in early 2023, I actually collapsed in excruciating pain to the point that I thought I had to go to the hospital. It was insane. And I found out that I was later diagnosed with endometriosis.
Wow.
And I like to be very open about this because I think a lot of women suffer from this and don't speak up about it or go misdiagnosed or undiagnosed for years. Um, so that also one, not just pain, but also fertility issues for me too. At the time, my ex husband and I were hoping to start a family. So that affected it as well.
Mm.
Um, and endometriosis is an inflammatory disease. So I had to make a lot of lifestyle changes in what I consumed and how I took care of myself. But also, that type of inflammation is worsened by stress,
Right.
unresolved trauma, um, and things that I think I needed to address internally as
Yeah.
well. It just was a buildup. I think a lot of inflammatory diseases can be tied to
Yeah.
that unresolved anguish
Sure.
and pain that goes unaddressed. I do Reiki. I mean, my Reiki healer even felt it in my body,
Yeah.
without me even telling her.
Yeah.
Um, I believe she described it as my womb space had anger and frustration and betrayal,
Mm.
which was very interesting to hear.
Yeah.
And also, me knowing what I knew at that time was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that forced me to really make changes. I changed how I ate,
Yep.
um, focusing on cooking with whole ingredients, a lot more vegetables, things of that nature. I quit drinking alcohol.
Mm.
I still don't drink alcohol. That's just a personal choice for me. And that's made a significant difference in my physical health. Um, and I've really paid attention to mindfulness practices.
Yeah.
Yoga always has been a go to for me, journaling and such. But every single day, make it a point now, usually when I'm walking to the T to go to work, I feel the sun on my face and the wind in my hair. And I take a deep breath in, and oh, my lungs work. I can breathe. And look
Mm.
at me walking. I can walk. I can
Yeah.
walk through this park right now.
Yeah.
Just those little itty bitty things. And I'm going to a job that I love, that makes me feel fulfilled and happy. And I still get to help people every day. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
that brief moment of like,
Gratitude.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just a little 30-second practice that I make sure I do every day.
I love that.
And yeah.
I love that. And I feel like, in the last couple of years, I obviously see you in my yoga classes
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time, which I love so much. And I'm so grateful for your
yeah. Always.
support and love. But like, I love seeing you in that space. I love feeling your energy in that space.
Mm.
Um, I think, yeah, like I can always feel you actively releasing and like letting go and
Your classes.
your mindfulness though and your intention when you step into a room, like everything you do, even coming and sitting down, it's like I can feel the thoughtfulness that you put into every single thing that you do. And I think that's so amazing. And like, yeah, I mean, you left the ADA's office
I did.
and now you are at a law firm in Boston as an
Yes.
associate.
Yes.
How has that change of pace created more space for ease in your journey?
Yeah. The firm I work for has phenomenal work-life balance, in my opinion. So that's kind of the first aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Second, I'm very fortunate to work with some really talented attorneys that are just good people,
Yeah.
and it's opened doors for my practice. So now, I do obviously district, um, superior court, and state court all throughout the Commonwealth. I also am now in federal court to practice, which is
Wow.
really cool. I've done appellate work before the SJC. I've just gotten to expand the work that I do,
Yeah.
and it's just opened my eyes to so many other creative ways to help people,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I love doing. I love that my work, I get to directly help people with what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I am also, I really care about the criminal justice system, which is a whole conversation for another
Yeah.
day, but and law.
But an important one. Yeah.
Yes. But so it's just kind of taken me to this whole new exciting path for my career, and new opportunities and new people, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to work there. I still am. I really get excited every day to go work there.
Yeah.
Um and it's also provided me some more financial stability, which I am very grateful for. I'm not going to
Absolutely.
pretend that's not a
It's
thing. That's a thing
important.
in this world. It's
Yep.
important, and I'm very grateful for that too.
Absolutely.
And um, it's also been just a very positive environment to work in. And when you're working 40 plus hours a week, you want to be in an environment that you enjoy,
Yeah.
with people that you enjoy. And so I'm just very grateful to have found that,
Yeah.
because not everyone does. Um, and separate from work, I've still been able to maintain, if not have even more balance and just time for myself and taking care of myself and being with family and tapping into things I love and enjoy again
Yeah.
that I haven't in a long time.
Yep. Now, kind of mentioned this earlier, but mentioned that you have an ex-husband.
Yes.
I know that you're going through a divorce.
Yep.
And, I wanted to just like speak to and ask you to speak to a little bit, but like, especially as a woman, right? When you're in your 20s, 30s, something's kind of going one way, doesn't pan out that way, and you have to switch it up. Like, that can be really hard.
Yeah.
But also when you are a like high achiever and you have serious expectations for yourself on something, the realization of needing to let something go or move on something can also be really hard.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you kind of struggled with that or yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
Oh, definitely.
yeah.
You know, I felt like a failure.
Mm,
Failed. My marriage failed.
mm,
And that was a hit. I'll get choked up still. You
mm-hmm.
know, because it's a grieving process. It's
Sure.
like a death.
A death, absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, because you imagine and picture your whole life going a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just losing husband, but family too.
Yeah.
And um, my ex-husband's family, what a beautiful family, beautiful people.
Yeah.
He is too. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, and it's very hard to lose that, to
Yeah.
lose multiple relationships,
Yep.
um, and also feel like this whole life that you had envisioned for yourself for years.
Yeah.
Because I was with my ex-husband for about a decade,
Yeah.
um, is gone,
Yeah.
and you know you have no idea what's next. So then the fear kicks in of
Yeah.
the uncertainty,
Yeah.
um, and that's another thing you have to confront. So it's grief, it's fear and letting go of fear, feeling the grief, which I still grieve to this day,
Yes.
letting go of fear. And actually, I look to the unknown now with excitement
Mm.
and joy, because even at the very beginning of the separation with my marriage, I kept saying, no matter what happens, there's something better after this, whether it is my marriage continuing
Mm-hmm.
or not.
Mm-hmm.
There is something better after this difficulty
Yep.
in my life right now. And that's what I was holding on to.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. I think, first of all, a gem right there. Like, just that realization that you're in a temporary situation.
Yeah.
There's another side to come out on. When you're in the dark, like those dark moments, it's really hard to be able to see that light. So that you were able to like motivate yourself and like bring yourself up and out like that, I think is really, really incredible.
Yeah. Well, I was fortunate to have a support system that I tapped into.
Yeah.
Tap into your support system, folks. They're there for a
Yeah.
reason. You're
Yeah.
never too much.
Yeah.
Um, Tiana, my friend Emily, you know, um, my friends Adrian and Ariel,
Yeah.
they were like my key
Yeah.
people, you know, to remind me,
Yeah.
and ground me when I needed it.
Yep.
Um, your yoga classes actually were like my church. There were times that, like, I'd be in certain poses, I'd hear you speak, and whatever you were speaking just hit me the right way, and it would bring tears to my eyes. Just the
Yep.
release. The release is true. So when you say you could feel my release, I really did release a lot in your classes. It was wonderful. I just like, so grateful to you for that space. But yeah, and then a lot of it was me like remembering to tap into my mindfulness practices, my little walks, my yoga, my journaling, my gratitude journal. I was doing all the things.
Yeah.
I was sniffing all the candles,
Whatever
like
you do.
do all the meditation, doing all the things. But sometimes you got to ramp it up during
Yeah.
tough times,
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Um, but you just, and you got to take it one day at a time,
Yeah.
one day at a time.
Yeah.
And I also used it as a time, especially after we made the decision to divorce, um, to reflect internally about, myself and how I was in the relationship, and just things in general internally with myself,
Yeah.
kind of that check-in and reflection.
Yeah. Because at the
Okay.
end of the day, it's always an opportunity to grow.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Hmm.
And that's what I wanted to take it as well.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because in this moment, there are silver linings. And I think one of them is like that you get to choose differently and do things a little bit
Mm-hmm.
differently. And do you feel like those kind of opportunities and ideas and inspirations are like presenting themselves to you?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Um, Being where I'm at now, and what I'm doing, um, I think I know I would approach my next relationship or what I'm looking for differently,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but in general, internally, just me,
Hmm.
um, I'm really focusing on what makes me happy and caring far, far less about what other people think, other people's expectations. Not that it was ever a really high priority, but going back to the beginning of our conversation, that was always something lingering in the back of my mind
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have to worry about that
Hmm.
anymore.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm not gonna. In the end, you know, it's about what makes me happy in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And just like making your choices for you,
Yes.
you know?
Choices are for me.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think too, a couple things that you said that I've really like gathered in this conversation, but like the significance of, you know, using your community as a support system, but
Mm.
not necessarily as like a way to inform your identity.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And like the awareness that you have of people in the position that you're in this world and in your community, like
Mm-hmm.
the more that kind of goes down and
Mm-hmm.
any fear around what people will think about you, the more you can tap into community as just support. And that's it. And I think that's the goal of community in general, and a goal for us to all kind of think about and have and be intentional about, not just in the way that we're tapping into our community, but in the way that we're creating community for other people.
Yeah.
Like, really, like, we listen and we don't judge kind of vibe.
Yes.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? But really, like, holding that mantra um, so that everyone can feel really safe. Um, and another thing that you were saying that I thought was really beautiful was um, you talked earlier about just like fear and how like those darker moments brought in those thoughts of fear and all of that. But like one thing that I've heard as you've spoken today is like you really are so brave and you're so like, even where it's not maybe been the best, as you're realizing, like to be so dedicated to like that next goal and that next achievement, but it's allowed you to like stay, I think, brave in a way where you like are motivated to keep going,
Mm.
where I think some people might just kind of fall and say, I can't actually do this anymore. It's like this funny thing in you where it's
Mm-hmm.
like that's never really been an option.
Yeah.
And I think even in your darkest moments, it's still never really been an option of like just be done. It's more like, okay, how can I
Keep going.
keep going, and like
Yeah.
what is that next thing?
Yeah, that's true. I guess the next things just kind of change too. And I've also incorporated the gratitude and appreciation of where I'm at in the now. But I do have that keep going mentality. I always have.
Yeah.
Um, Not just in achievements, but in all aspects of life. And I love life. I think
Yeah.
that's a big part of it too, is I love life. And I think early on I saw a lot of people that didn't get to fully enjoy life.
Mm.
Um, whether it was missed opportunities due to poor decisions, whether it was death at a young age, or anything in between, or, like my grandmother and my aunt,
Yeah.
not having access to education. I just like, there's just so much I've been able to see and do starting at a young age that I just want to keep going and see and do all of it. Like I really just want to enjoy and embrace life because it's awesome.
I love that. It's amazing.
It's awesome.
Now, is there anything that you, knowing all you know now, would like tell your younger self?
I would tell her to slow down a little bit.
Mm.
Um, in the sense of, you can keep going for those goals and achievements, but don't forget to appreciate the here and now.
Mm.
Um, appreciating the here and now would be a big emphasis. Um, yeah, I think that's kind of the general place I would go with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that. Just
yeah,
keep her present, you know?
yeah, yeah. And you know, you don't have to manage everyone else's burdens.
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that makes
Sure does.
sense.
Now, okay, to wrap it up, what does ease look like for you in your life right now?
Ease in my life right now um, is really just appreciating every day, like day by day, hour by hour, just the gratitude in the everyday, the gratitude and appreciation in the little things that someone does to take care of you, uh, to show they care, to show love and support. That's been ease for me. Ease is a walk with my dog. Ease is feeling the breeze in my hair. Um, ease is knowing that I have enough and am enough right where I am in this moment
Mm,
and being grateful for that.
so beautiful.
That's where I'm at.
Thank you, Liana.
Thank you,
This was such
Kijana.
a great
This
conversation.
was a great
Thank
combo. I
you for coming. Yeah,
appreciate you so
I
much.
appreciate you.
Oh my goodness.
We're back. We're back. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Liana. Uh, Thank you again to Liana for being so open and vulnerable and raw with us in that interview. I really appreciated her perspective on so many things, but more than anything, I appreciated her authenticity and her openness with us. There was a lot to learn, and I hope that that resonated with you in the way that you needed it to. A little astro update. I did do my homework this week. I'm ready for you. And guess what? It's Taurus season coming in, baby. I am so excited. Yes, that's my season. Yes, I'm biased as hell. I love Tauruses. But you know what I love about this weekend too? Obviously, we talked a little bit in the interview about Liana being a Capricorn. The moon is transitioning into Capricorn this weekend. It'll be in Sagittarius and going into Capricorn. And with the sun moving into Taurus, the moon moving into Capricorn, I felt like, wow, this is a really aligned weekend and aligned moment. The Capricorn moon is there to remind us to build long-term structures, to have long-term goals, long-term structures that will support our long-term goals. And Taurus season is all about stability, but it's also about sensuality. It's a moment to slow down and really savor the moment. And I think that those two energies can work so beautifully together. I think that Taurus, especially, can remind Capricorn that we can work smarter and not harder, that we are building towards something. But it's also a reminder that it's not just about getting to the end of the rope, it's not just about finishing, it's about the journey along the way and enjoying the journey along the way. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus doesn't want you to forget that life is about living and not just surviving, not just pushing through, and not just doing the work, but actually taking a step back to enjoy the fruit of your labors as well. So, yeah, I hope that this landed with you the way that you needed to. I am wishing a beautiful weekend ahead for you. I'm wishing you peace in your process, and I'm wishing you strength in your softness. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks for listening. You want to say anything? Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Ease in Real Life. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe. Please leave a review or share it with a friend who might need a little more ease in their life. Remember, creating ease is a choice we make every day, even in the hard moments. I'll chat with you next time, and until then, take care of yourself and each other.